I think that some of the challenges that we're facing when it comes to engaging the public and getting content that will help us with whether it's operational or just better situational awareness, trust is the hugest challenge that we have to overcome. And a lot of what I have gathered when I talk with folks in the emergency management field who are responsible for life safety missions is that they don't want to expend resources if they are not fully certain and assured that they would be acting on verified information. I think that one of the things that I'm hoping that we can start shifting towards when we talk about this particular topic is to think about the fact that information in general, and especially crisis information, is valuable to more than just emergency responders who have life safety missions. It's also very critically important to members of the public themselves. And so we need to recognize that as challenging as it is for us to figure out what is credible and what is valid information, we have every single member of society out there also trying to figure out what sources they should be listening to. And let's face it, the public likes social media. They're going there, and the reason that we have even paid any attention to social media is because of the population that is using it. And because we know that they're there, they are going to be having access to a lot of content that comes from unofficial sources. So I think what we have a responsibility of doing in our field of, whether it's government agencies, public safety agencies, humanitarian groups, is we need to look at that landscape of overflow of information and figure out how can we put some structure in it. How can we make this a environment where people can find the information that they're looking for, where they can get detailed accounts, whether it's from an eyewitness who happens to be nearby or whether it's from an official source who is giving instructions and warnings for how they need to be safe. When we think about policy challenges within the context of social media content and the information from unofficial sources, we rightly so have to question ourselves. What are we going to listen to? We have to have some robust discussions about what kind of policies we currently have on the books and how we are interpreting those policies. Sometimes I think we tend to be very much risk adverse and tend to look at policies and maybe interpret them too restrictively that really ends up tying our hands in what ways we might be able to be most effective. I like to look at some examples of other countries that have made some progress in this area. And the example that I like to point to is what happened in Australia during some recent flooding that they had that ran through 2011. And they actually had one jurisdiction in Queensland that was actively, their cops that were out on the street trying to do evacuations in certain areas were actively tweeting. They didn't have a policy in place that gave them the empowerment that they could do that. They just recognized it was the right thing to do. And in the after action reports that the Flood Review Board put out from the government in Australia, they said this was a good use of resources and strategy to meet the changing needs. And I think we need to develop some flexibility here in the US where we can recognize that there are some very important legal guidelines that we have to follow, but that there also may be some new dynamics that are in play, and social media really tests the limits of some of those areas, but that we have to use common sense about it. The other thing I wanted to mention too about information that is generated by the public and how we need to build an interface between the two. Because right now the public tends to be using social media for their own social networks. They are tweeting or posting or uploading content for their friends, their families, and their acquaintances. They're not necessarily doing it right now to be picked up and listened to by official organizations, where a lot of those of us in government are looking at that and saying, hey, there might be good information to mine, but we're going to mine it and we're going to keep it all to ourselves, and we're not going to put that out in a public way. Whereas that might have even more value for a member of the public to be able to see something of a filtered nature that kind of takes out some of the noise. Or maybe people are interested in the emotional coping exchanges, but other people just want the hard facts of what happened where and at what time. So we know that there's capabilities there, and can we start to utilize the public to do some of that verification for us, so that if a member of the public submits some type of eyewitness report or a photograph, they upload it, it lands somewhere in a public forum where we have some structure and systems in place, that then can we then mobilize that public to help vote it up, vote it down, clarify, add comments, layer on top of it their assessment, so that we really start doing that crowdsourcing component to get a more robust, more accurate report, that then we can start to see credibility that is established by the public. That ideally, when we have limited resources to be able to verify things with our few responders that we have to get out into the field, utilizing the public not only to send us information, but to help verify it would be, I think, a huge improvement moving forward.